In the earliest stages of the Great Crusade, long before many of the Astartes legions had been reunited with their primarchs, much of the galaxy remained wild and untamed. Entire worlds swarmed with unimaginable horrors. Once, such world was Kiy-Buran. 4 regiments of the Revenant regulars, stalwart soldiers of the Imperial Army sent to pacify the planet, disappeared, leaving a vulnerable opening in the expansive advance of the Great Crusade. Recognizing the dangers lurking on this irradiated world, the Emperor decided to send his own monstrous weapons, the Space Marines, to face whatever beasts might lie in wait. 3 companies of the 9th Legion, known as the Revenant Legion, were dispatched to Kiy-Buran. Unbeknownst to them, this world was a hostile desert wasteland, inhabited by degenerate mutants, victims of their unforgiving environment. These mutants were under the rule of the despotic techno-barbarian warlord, Eklobia. This brutal despot controlled his malformed subjects, manipulating them as both pawns to be expended in conflict and as his primary source of sustenance, maintaining a gruesome economy founded on bloodshed and cannibalism. For 3 long, grueling solar months, the Revenant regulars managed to hold off the ceaseless onslaught in their entrenched positions. However, the tide of the conflict shifted dramatically with the arrival of the 9th Legion. The scene was nothing short of an apocalyptic spectacle as the storm-grey drop pods of the 9th Legion descended from the heavens, shrouded in black smoke. The 9th Legion, with their superior weaponry and indomitable spirit, broke through the mutant throng, with relative ease providing much-needed relief to the embattled Revenant troops. With their arrival, the dynamics of the conflict shifted. The Space Marines began a systematic assault on the encampments of local tribes, seizing control of the northern mountain ranges. Each encounter with the indigenous mutants was met with an unforgiving response, their superior technology and armaments making short work of the enemy. In the early stages of the Revenant Legion's war on Kiy-Buran, they encountered little organized resistance, and they were able to conquer territory freely. However, this seeming ease would prove to be deceptive, merely the silence before the storm. News of the Legion's incursion and their swift victories soon reached Eklobia. The warlord, known for his cunning and ruthlessness, vowed to eradicate the invaders. Under his command was an unimaginable multitude of mutants, a mass of misshapen bodies and twisted minds whose sheer numbers appeared endless. What had been sporadic and disorganized clashes became increasingly brutal confrontations. Eklobia's forces, driven by fear of the horrors his enslaved sorcerers could unleash upon them, fought with an almost suicidal fervor. The 9th found themselves drawn into a large-scale battle against an enemy whose grotesque deformities were as much a weapon as the primitive clubs and picks they wielded. Despite the relentless onslaught, the 9th Legion stood their ground, every battle-brother fighting valiantly, slaying scores of the enemy for each comrade lost. The incessant waves of mutant attackers, crude in their weaponry but overwhelming in number, pressed relentlessly against the Legion. Additionally, Eklobia's thralls unleashed dread sorceries, conjuring abominations the very sight of which could drive even the strongest mind to madness. These terrorizing manifestations of dark magic wrought devastation among the Space Marines, testing even the firmest of wills. Rather than surrendering to despair, the 9th demonstrated their indefatigable spirit by hacking a desperate escape through the enemy mob. The once formidable force was dwindled down to a mere 380 battle brothers. The Legion made several radical adjustments to cope with their predicament. Among the most significant was the transformation of their apothecaries into combat units. These traditionally healing-oriented warriors were reshaped into frontline fighters, maximizing the dwindling resources at the 9th's disposal. However, it was their most ghastly adaptation that forever engraved this campaign into history, an event later known as the Banquet of Kiy-Buran. The drawn-out war and isolation from the Imperium forced the Legion to resort to unthinkable measures. They began to consume the remains of the fallen mutants, their genetically enhanced biology enabling them to draw nourishment from the grotesque flesh. Born out of survival necessity, this horrifying practice offered a macabre solution to their food scarcity. In response to their drastic survival strategies, the Ninth embarked on a new approach to the war. Abandoning conventional warfare, they opted for a strategy of constant pressure and retaliation, frequently orchestrating raids against Eclobia's forces. Even with their diminished numbers, the Space Marines remained a fearsome adversary, leveraging their superior skills and equipment to inflict heavy casualties on the mutant hordes. Simultaneously, the Revenant Legion chose an almost heretical method to replenish their ranks. They forcefully conscripted local mutants, subjecting them to the rigorous and brutal process of transformation into Space Marines. This extraordinary practice, born out of desperation, was surprisingly effective. The resilient gene seed of the Ninth Legion enabled them to mold even the most grotesque mutants into potent warriors, reinforcing the Legion's depleted numbers. Despite the long odds and dwindling numbers, the Legion held their ground against Eclobia's forces. The conflict became a grueling war of attrition spanning over 12 years. However, as time passed, the Space Marines gradually gained strength, subtly shifting the scales of war in their favor. Eventually, Eclobia's forces were weakened by hunger and casualties, and his stronghold at last besieged. As Eclobia attempted escape, his ship was intercepted and destroyed by the newly arrived Imperial Fists fleet. The campaign's conclusion was marred by controversy, as Rogel Dawn condemned the Ninth's methods, leading to the razing of the Revenant Legion stronghold, Buran City, and the erasure of the campaign's history. Mankind must never learn of the atrocities committed during the charnel feast.